Sometimes we feel alone, but alone ain't always wrong.
Hey, this is Irvin Griffin, and welcome to another edition of Grown Man Talk. The parental guidance thing that you may have saw at the very beginning of this, along with spoiler alert, so there's going to be some storyline plots dropped in this video. Just thought I'd go ahead and warn you. It's not so much for cursing or language, but some terms may be used that may be offensive, but they're used to make a point here. So please bear with me. Everybody seems to be now that the Black Panther's been out for a couple weeks, and most everyone has seen it. Everybody is saying, who are you, Team TChalla or Team Kilmonger? Most, especially those of the pro-black mentality, or blacks from America, I should say, are tending to side with Kilmonger. And I even seen a few comments, so much called, yeah, Killmonger's my king, man. T'Challa's a coon. And let me say this right now, and this is just my personal opinion. And this comes from somebody that has seen the movie twice. I might even see it a third time. I don't know. But in my opinion, neither one of these men are coons. In my opinion, both are strong black men with two opposing personalities. I've even seen the comparison of Martin Luther King being T'Challa and Malcolm X versus with relation to Killmonger. And I don't know, I can't really get with that either, because, and you'll see what I'm getting into. To me, T'Challa was like this. T'Challa grew up in privilege. He grew up in a two-parent household. You know, King T'Chaka was there along with the Queen Mother. Him and his sister Suri grew up in a two-parent household. Killmonger, on the other hand, was born of two people who were not married. His father, who was the brother of T'Chaka, betrayed the country of Wakanda and was killed for his, well, actually he was going to stand trial for his betrayal, but then the man that he thought was his good friend, which turned out to be a spy on him, who later was betrayed. I think his name was Ezekiel. I'm not for sure. You think I'd pick up on some of these names, but I know he was played by Forrest Whitaker. I don't know the actor's name that played him in his younger time. He tried to kill him, and T'Chaka, in defense of him, killed his own brother and left the child behind, which I thought was messed up on the part of the royal family of Wakanda. But getting back on point, more or less, he was raised in a single-parent household, although the mother is never revealed or talked about, which I found interesting. Basically, he grew up in a single-parent household, grew up in the streets, and had to raise himself up out of his situation. And his view of the world was vastly different than T'Challa's. T'Challa's view of the world was an isolationist type of deal. He didn't really know what was going on the outside that much. Whereas Killmonger, or the man that would become Killmonger, had more of our viewpoint, living in a society that didn't necessarily like or even respected you because of the color of your skin, because of the way you wore your hair, all kinds of things. And he felt abandoned and betrayed by the very people that his father loved, which was the people of Wakanda. And his father had started to take on the philosophy that his son would eventually adopt. And that was, we have all these resources, this wealth in Wakanda, yet there are people that look like us all around the world that are suffering and only lack the tools and the knowledge to fight back. We could do that. Do I agree with this philosophy personally? No. Do I necessarily fault them for that philosophy? Again, no. Because I'll be honest, there have been times in my life that I have thought the way Killmonger thought. And as far as T'Challa being Martin Luther King, not necessarily. If you look at the whole history of Martin Luther King, yes, in the very beginning, it was more about we shall overcome and be in peace with all people, equality. And that's what the mainstream tries to push about Martin Luther King. But in private, if you really look behind some of his sermons, even the very one that he is famous for, the I Have a Dream speech, the mainstream only lets you know a portion of that. If you really read that whole thing, even there was a little bit of a militant side to Dr. Martin Luther King. That's the side that American society in particular don't want you to know about. And T'Challa, while he was favorable to all people, while he was a man to all people, he was king of Wakanda first. He was for his people first. And on top of that, he knew when he was being respected and when he was not. Now, as for the ruling of Wakanda, I've read many things where, man, he was king, man, and this and that. Technically, no, he wasn't. While he did clearly defeated T'Challa. While he clearly defeated T'Challa in their ritual combat at the pool, again, that's why I put the spoiler alert. Their rules clearly state winner is decided by submission or death. T'Challa never submitted, nor, as it turned out, was he dead. So actually, Killmonger was not king, technically. Killmonger, when confronted with this reality, when T'Challa showed back up to resume the challenge, said, nah, we through with that. I'm king now. And basically spat on the tradition of Wakanda. Now, some will cheer that and say, yeah, because the tradition wasn't working anyway. But here's the problem. A man that respects his people and their traditions and their code will live and die by that code. His people was willing to go along with whatever Killmonger wanted at the time because they believed he was the rightful king. They thought T'Challa was dead. They were willing to go along with it, even though many of them knew it would probably lead to their own destruction. And a true king respects his people. Killmonger was only interested in conquering. That's it. And anyone that stood in his way, even those that had valid points about the way he was doing things, they would be crushed, thrown aside, or killed. Now that sounds like a lot like pro-black of today, isn't it? When you disagree with them, even if you have a valid point, They discard you. They call you a coon. They call you nigger. Probably as much or more than a white supremacist would. They call you traitor. They abuse you. They disrespect you. Even when you wasn't disrespectful to them. That was Kilmonger. But it's like we embrace those that do that because we see that as strength. TChalla, on the other hand, yes, he did stand up when he wanted to know something, like such as when his uncle didn't want to tell him at first the truth about what happened all those years ago. And he says, I promised the king I would never talk to you. And he yelled out, I am your king now. Yes, he did raise his voice, but he did not use anything foul. He did not assault his uncle. He did not do any of that. He still showed his uncle respect, but he said, hey, I'm the king now. TChalla's not here. He basically asserted his authority without being a dictator. And when he found out about what happened, when he was in that spirit world after taking the heart-shaped herb, which, by the way, was also burnt up by Kilmonger so that no one could follow him afterwards, because as far as he was concerned, he was completely king, which I will get to that in a second. But when TChalla went to that spirit world and confronted his father was like, it's time to come home. And TChalla was like, how could you do that to him? Talking about Kilmonger. And he says, he was the truth I chose to omit. Let me make that clear. Omit. And TChalla, in so many words, made it clear to him, what you did to him was wrong. And now you have created an even bigger monster by your decision. Which TChalla was absolutely right. But he did it without disrespecting his father. He didn't curse him. He didn't talk breezy, as they like to say today, to him. He still respected his father, even in the spirit world. But at the same time, he let him know, hey, what you did was foul. And now you've created a bigger problem that I got to clean up. Because basically he was cleaning up his dad's mess. Which was Kilmonger. Now, as for the philosophies of the two, Kilmonger, his philosophy was in the right place. Hey, we have all these resources. We can help people that look like us around the world. Hey, he was right. But the way he went about it was he had the mindset of a soldier, of a conqueror. And that wasn't necessarily the way to go. Despite this, TChalla inadvertently learned from Kilmonger and said, I will not do it this way, but Kilmonger's right. In a way, he admitted that he was right. And you can see, and you'll see when you see the film. I won't give too much away. You'll see when you see the film. In the end, he said Kilmonger was right. I won't use his tactics. However, he was right. We cannot be isolationists anymore. And even King TChalla, if you go back to Captain America's Civil War, even he, in the end, admitted Wakanda's traditional ways of staying out from the outside world, while it has kept them safe and allowed them to thrive for thousands of years, the world was changing. The world was being set up. I mean, there's a comic book called, a Black Panther comic book out that is specifically for the movies, that tells a story that predates from a young brother named Dope Spill Comics, which I'll leave the link in the description box and in the comment section. You can check it out. That actually goes all the way back to 2008 to the first Iron Man, where T'Chaka is watching what's going on and watched when Tony Stark simply said, "I am Iron Man." He knew the world was changing. And this was years before Civil War, the events of Captain America Civil War. Because even in the speech he made in there before he was killed, he admitted the world was changing and that Wakanda can no longer stay out of what was going on. Because the world was starting to catch up with Wakanda. While Wakanda was still the most advanced, under the guise of we're just a third world country, they were starting to catch up with Wakanda. So even his thoughts was changing. So in the end, what kind of person would I be if I had to go with one or the other? It's tough for me to go with one or the other, because both men were wrong in their own thinking, but both men were right in a way. T'Challa was wrong in the sense that he still had this isolation, this secretive type of thinking. But then he saw the flaw in that when he found out about what his father did to his own brother and leaving Eric Killmonger in the United States basically abandoned and alone. On the other hand, Killmonger was wrong. While he was right in that Wakanda should help people in general and people that look like us. Well, let me be specific. Killmonger was talking about people that were black, brown, and whatever. But the way he went about it was wrong. And he disrespected anyone that got in his way, even those who did respect him, and was telling him like, hey, man, slow your roll. Well, I'm with you, but you going about it this way is wrong. Basically, he disrespected them if they didn't go along with him 100%. Sounds like a lot of pro-blacks that we see in here of today, isn't it? But they were both right in the sense that T'Challa realized the traditions that Wakanda had done, being in secret at all costs, had created a monster in Killmonger, and realized that tradition kept T'Chaka from doing what was right. You killed this boy's father. You left him with no home virtually. The least they could have done was take him back with them to Wakanda, since technically he was a Wakandan citizen by blood. On the other hand, Killmonger, and I think I just said this actually, he was right in that Wakanda, being this isolationist place, was almost like bougie type, like it don't have nothing to do with us. Oh, they're not one of us. Even those that look like them, that says, oh, they're not one of us. To the world, and I hate using this phrase, but we all look alike to them. But yeah, it's hard for me to side with one or the other, because both had their flaws, but both had their good qualities. I think I would want the strength in the mind of Killmonger, but I would want the wisdom of T'Challa, the wisdom and heart of T'Challa. I would want a combo of the two men. If I had to become them, I would want a combo of the two men. I would want to be the fighter and the charismatic leader that Killmonger was, but I would want the wisdom and heart of T'Challa as well, because both men had good and bad to their philosophies. And one other thing before I wrap up. For those that say, well, Wakanda's not real, you know, you need to be taught the real, man. Wakanda's not real. I said, actually, Wakanda does exist. Know where it is? It's called Atlanta, Georgia. That's probably the closest real life thing we have to Wakanda in the United States. It's probably Atlanta, Georgia, in my opinion. Because that's almost like Black Mecca in the United States. But a lot of their thinking is a lot of what the thinking is, at least what as I've been told by friends, particularly, I won't say her name, but particularly a friend of mine that's from down in the Georgia area. Their thinking is a lot like the Wakandans. And quite frankly, the world is getting too small for us to be like that. On the other hand, we have to have the wisdom to know how to use our resources. This is why the black community, in my opinion, is so, shall we say, fragmented. This is why so many believe in going out and getting with a race of people that don't look like us. And I have nothing against that. But it's mostly because we can't get along. Those of us who do have resources often get with other black people just out of loyalty, but who don't have the maturity and the wisdom to know how to use those resources. Like, oftentimes, some relationships with black women that I've had often end because they still don't have the maturity to understand, hey, I can't be running out with the crew or with the boys every day in my vehicle. My personal vehicle is for me being able to get to work, get home, do what I need to do. And I'm just saying that for an example. Our minds haven't been elevated yet. And I don't want to sound like one of those Hotep type of dudes, but it's just the fact. Our minds have not been elevated to understand what we have. We have enough right now to create our own, shall we say, Wakanda. We just don't have the wisdom to use it. The problem with a TChalla thinking is that it becomes so isolationist that we may end up creating even a bigger monster or as big as any white supremacist system. On the other hand, you take the philosophy of Kilmonger too far, you end up destroying them, but you end up destroying us and everything around you. And then what do you have to rule? Then you end up wasting your resources, and then you have what? You have nothing. So that's just my 2 cents on the two characters, brilliantly portrayed by Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan. May I recommend, if you have seen the film, see it again. If you haven't seen the film, what are you waiting for? For Grown Man Talk, I'm Irvin Griffin.
Thinkers whose obsession with excellence and whose hunger for greatness remind us that we should all be unsatisfied with mimicking the popular rather than mining the fertile veins of creativity that God placed deep inside each of us.